I don't see any.
Okay. Hey, everybody. Fran was just checking me because I was just trying to eat lunch really quick before hopping on. And if anybody is somehow affiliated with TJ's Pizza Fundraising Company, and TJ's wants to be a sponsor of the show, I will absolutely eat your pizza every week and advertise to buy the pizza, because that was the pizza that I was eating. And I love the cheese so much that I don't usually wait for it to cool off enough. And so, yeah, I got the cheese. I feel like the cheese is like all over me now. But anyway, hi, this is Friday with Fran. I am Shelley, and this is Fran. How are you, Fran?
Once again, I'm all over the place, but I am humbled and grateful to have this opportunity to spend this time with you.
Thank you. I feel the same way. I look forward to this every week, and I'm happy to have anybody that is with us. So if you are with us, please let us know with a hashtag live or a hashtag where you're from or something like that. And if you happen to catch this in the replay, same thing, but hashtag replay or hashtag and then where you're from. So today's title is Doing It Scared. And this was my week to come up with the title. And it's not that we necessarily alternate weeks or have any sort of plan.
Oh, plan, what's that? Huh?
Right, exactly. But this idea came to me earlier this week because I had two events coming up that made me scared prior to the event. And I thought, we have to do things scared. Mm-hmm. And I have a sneaking suspicion that parents of children with disabilities do daily life scared. Am I right? Maybe not every single day, but I feel like,
especially in the beginning, I would have to say, or if it's a new thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would say and like for me now personally, I'm in a new season of health issues and I've never dealt with, so I have no expertise. So doing it scared.
Yeah. And it's uncomfortable, and it's usually not fun. It doesn't always have a great outcome.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like the alternative is just not doing it, whatever it is. And I don't feel like that's a better alternative.
Yeah, because what happens, and I know personally, if I choose not to do it, but I'm still afraid, I tend to break out all kinds of bad habits and focus on all the what ifs rather than just doing it and finding out and it may not be as scary once you do it.
Right. And maybe
so was it for you when you did it?
The one was, the other one was not.
Okay.
And I'll explain the scenarios here in a little bit, but there are going to be times when we do whatever it is that scares us, and it's going to have a negative outcome. But again, unless you try, you won't know. And I think exactly what you said is an excellent point, because if you don't do it, then you, or at least me, and you kind of hinted that this is you too, you think about all these things, like, well, I can't do it because of this reason and this reason and this reason, and this could happen and this could happen and that could happen. And we get focused on those negative things. And it's really difficult to then, for me, again, I can't speak for anyone else, say, but this could happen, or this could happen, or that could happen. Unless we do it, we're never going to know which of those things or completely different outcomes will happen.
Right.
So did you want to
Yeah.
say?
No, I'm just thinking, um, because I had to go see a specialist the other day. And it's a new area of specialty. Neither of my kids have dealt with it, and this was for me personally. And it's kind of thrown me for a loop because I have to have a couple of things, do a couple things, and have a couple things done to me. And uh, what they were said, I was like, I don't know what these are. So
Mhm.
because I don't, there's that fear because I don't have the education or the knowledge to combat that fear. So now I'm just educating myself to replace the fear with education.
Yeah. And for anyone who has joined us probably even once before, but definitely if you've joined us several times before, you know that Fran and I are both Bible believing people. And it says in the Bible 365 times, do not fear. Hey, Alex, welcome.
Hmm.
So, we have that to fall back on as well. And it's not just the words do not fear. There's usually more behind it. But knowing that I'm not in charge and no matter the outcome, I'm still going to be okay.
Hmm.
I don't necessarily always know what okay is going to look like. It might not be the picture that I have in my head, but I'm still going to be okay. So the one instance, or before I start sharing it, did you have other things to say first?
You can go for it.
Okay.
This was on your heart, so I figure run.
Okay. So I graduated a really long time ago, and this year, between last count all the calendars and all the calendars this year, all of my classmates and I are turning 50. So I don't know if that I don't know how to describe that to you, but
Don't even worry about it. It's okay.
okay. So older than you. That's all I know. So a few weeks ago, we have a class Facebook page. Somebody posted, "Hey, class of um, if you know I'm 50, you can pretty much figure it out. Um, let's get together and celebrate that we're all having our 50th birthdays this year." And it wasn't a formal, it was just, hey, whoever can come out and whoever is available, this is where it's going to be.
Hmm.
And so at first I was excited. And then the excitement turned to me being scared. And every day that it got closer to when the gathering was going to happen, I got a little more scared. And the day that we were driving to it, I should say that I called my friends that I'm still friends with from high school, and none of them were going.
Mm.
So I was like, okay, I called like 8 different people and nobody's going. So if I go, I had this whole, and we talked about this when I talked about my Master IEP Coach Conference, that I was worried that I was going to be excluded because I wasn't necessarily going to be there with my friends, but just people
Hmm.
that I went to school with. And not that, everybody has that. You're not friends with every single person in your class unless you have a class of
Acquaintance rather than
5.
friends.
Right. And even that, like my daughter doesn't have a very big class and she's not friends with everybody in her class. Um, so that day driving over, I was telling Kevin, I'm like, it makes me mad at myself that this scares me to go tonight because I don't get my worth from any human being. I don't get my value from any human being. Those things come from Christ's love for me. But it just It was, and I really think until just now, I didn't put the word on it, that it was, I was worried about, I was feeling like I was going to be excluded.
Mm-hmm.
So it just was, I was like, I'm doing it because I'm not giving in to this, what I considered for myself, a stupid fear. Wasn't like, anybody had it out for me or that, I was not in any danger. And so we went, and there were only a few people there, unfortunately. But I got hugs from every one of them. We were all happy to see each other. We caught up with one another. And while we were at the venue, as it was a public venue, I found out that someone that I knew was in need of prayers. And I'm not going to share what they were in need of prayers are, just in case, they don't want people to know. They haven't shared it with a lot of people. And so I don't want anybody to like go, oh no, it's so-and-so. And so Kevin and I had an opportunity to pray with that person. Now, if I hadn't gone, I wouldn't have had that opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have even known the opportunity was there. I don't know that I ever would have found out that I would have had that opportunity. I had a great time. I laughed with these people. We danced together. We toasted to our birthdays. It was a nice time. So that started the idea in my head. Then several days later, I found out that I was going to be attending a meeting with a client of mine, and the school district was bringing in the school lawyer. And it was the second time the school lawyer was coming to a meeting of ours. And at first I was like, fine, I don't care, because, we're not in the wrong. Mm-hmm. What you were asking for from the school, just the fact that they're bringing in the lawyer it actually made me mad, because I felt like they were trying to bully the parent by saying, oh, well, we're going to bring in our lawyer and it's no big deal. She's just going to come in and explain stuff. And, if we're doing something wrong, she'll let us know. I shouldn't have believed that, but I did. So that was the first meeting. And then we had this meeting coming up. But the closer it got to the meeting, the more I could feel my fear rising up. Now, this was a different type of fear than the fear that I had going to meet my former classmates, because going to meet my former classmates, it was just me. It was just my own fear. I was the only one that was going to be affected by the outcome. Going for this client, I'm not the one being affected by the outcome at all. It's the student.
Right.
And so that adds pressure to me. Nobody's putting pressure on me. I put that pressure on me, that I don't want to take a person, a parent, to a meeting. And I mean, this has been a battle with this school. It kind of goes back to what we talked about the other week of, which battles do you fight? And we're trying desperately to understand the school's rules for this particular situation. Mm-hmm. And we had asked for a particular service, and the child was denied. And we don't understand why. They feel they have explained it to us, but it's a very arbitrary explanation. There is no hard and fast checklist of, well, this will be okay and this won't, or this qualifies you and this doesn't. And that's what we were trying to get from them. We were pretty certain that they weren't going to change their minds about giving her child the service that we requested. And so for a couple of days, I was at peace, but I was still like, I just want the meeting over. And then that day, it was after lunchtime. that the meeting was going to happen. Well, thankfully, I ended up being very busy that morning, so I didn't have a chance to think about it. But then when my morning stuff was finished and I looked at the clock and it started dawning on me how little time I had, then, I mean, my heart was about to beat out of my chest and my breathing started getting faster and my palms started to sweat and my mouth started to get dry. And again, I'm like, I acknowledge that it was that fight or flight or freeze adrenaline rush. And I fought, but I really wanted to flee. And it was not a pretty meeting. It you know, the lawyer from the school was not happy with us. She's like, we've already discussed this and we're not giving you the services. Why are we still talking about this? And I felt like, you know, I had to keep praying and I had to keep, you know, just like, keep me calm, help me find the words, help the mom find the words, help us, you know, to say what we need to say for the child. We left the meeting with nothing resolved. Nothing changed. Nothing is different. We still don't understand. But had we not gone to the meeting, or had I not gone to the meeting to support the parent, who knows what would have happened?
Right.
So, you know, I had one good outcome, I consider, and one, well, it happened. But just the fact that I did it was, I felt an accomplishment.
And I was thinking as you were sharing that, especially as you were sharing the one that just happened, and you were talking about you were busy in the morning, so you didn't have opportunity. I think something that is really helpful is on what do we focus leading up to what we have to do scared? On what are we allowing our thoughts to dwell? I know I'm going to just read. This was the verse of the day. It, it says, when you pass through the waters, I will be with you, and through the rivers, they shall not overwhelm you. When you walk through fire, you shall not be burned, and the flame shall not consume you. And and that was in Isaiah. But what that got me to was, God's got you. And I was like, because I have this thing that I have to do scared coming up, a couple things. And you know what? Don't Google medical procedures. I'm just telling you. And then definitely don't Google the medical procedures and then watch them on YouTube. No, it's not a good thing. I'm just telling you.
Fran. Oh.
So the verse, I had to throw that unwanted advice out there, but that's my little tidbit for y'all today. But the verse that came to mind and I was like, okay, God's got me for this, was do not fear, for I am with you. Yep. Do not be afraid, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will hold on to you with my righteous right hand. And that's also in Isaiah. But in that verse, I've found so often, don't be afraid. You talked about it previously, that it's in there, but there's also a lot more around it. And he's going to strengthen me, help me, hold me. So for me, I have to focus on those promises, and then I can do it scared, because even though I'm scared, I know that God has it all under control. And so that I just have to trust in him. He doesn't say I can't, well, he does, says, don't be afraid, but
right.
I think, don't stay afraid is more how I see that. Acknowledge, oh, you're afraid. How? So my thoughts are, some people don't have a belief in God or that kind of relationship. So what can you do when you are scared? What can it's still the same principle as on what are you focusing on? What are you dwelling leading up to your thing that you have to do afraid?
Right.
Do scared. What are you focusing on? If it's your child, you know what I found the easiest thing to do was to focus on how much I love if it was my son or my daughter, how much I love them so much and I just want the best for them. And
Yeah.
it makes that fear and that scared fall away because I know that I'm going to fight and I'm going to push and I'm going to learn as much as I can to help them, because if I'm afraid, eventually they may be afraid. Like
Right.
today, my daughter had a doctor's appointment and she does not like needles. I mean, in the past, it took like a bunch of people to hold her just to get her shots or blood draws or whatever. But I mean, she has come so far, but she had to get a shot today. And it was like, um, and I could see her just starting to get afraid. And so I was trying to get her focus off. She goes, "I'm too old for that to work." Mom, I still know what you're doing because we were gonna go. I had promised her I would run her somewhere because she wanted to get a couple of crafty things. And so I was like, okay, so what exactly did you want when we go here? And what
Uh-huh.
what did she goes, it's not working. I know she's gonna come through that door and she's gonna have a needle in her hand and it's gonna go in my arm. I know it, Mom. I said, well, I was trying. I
Yeah.
was trying. And she goes, I know, but it didn't work. And then she came in and I tried again. She goes, Mom, I am just too old for this. But so as you were talking and then this thinking of that, it reminded me, on what are we focusing?
Mhm.
So often I think that's when it's so important that we um, develop a network of support.
Yeah.
Because if we cannot do it alone, you cannot, yes, do it scared, but you should not attempt to do everything in life alone. We're not meant to. We're meant
Right.
to be there for each other. Even if you don't have a child who has unique needs, you still need that input, that support.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just ran off with it, but that was my thought process
No,
as
and
you were sharing.
yeah, and I agree with that. And it is very difficult to shift what you're thinking. It feels almost, for me at least, like pushing a extremely heavy rock or boulder, I guess not a rock, it would be a boulder, uphill to be able to get my mind off of the thing that scares me and on to
Hmm.
something else. It's just, it feels like it takes that much energy and strength. And I've shared this story before of when I was little and I went to my first day of swimming lessons and how
Hmm.
the instructor, she was just a teenager at the time and she was flustered with me because I wasn't putting my face in the water and I wasn't going under the water. And then she said, it's no big deal, and or whatever she said. And she just pulled me under the water. My eyes were open. My mouth was open. I hadn't, taken a breath. I was crying at the moment. I got so scared and I focused on that it is now this huge thing in my life. And it's been like 40 plus years that happened. And I still, and that was the other thing, I forgot about this to tell you about this
Uh-huh.
experience that my husband's
You did tell me, yeah. I
about,
remember.
well, I told you, but I didn't tell
Yeah.
that we were going to go on a float trip with my husband's side of the family. And that I was nervous about it.
Hmm.
And the day that it was to happen, I told him, I'm like, I know you guys all think this is silly because, most of the water probably isn't even going to be up over my head. But, if we do get to a point where the water is over my head, that makes me scared. But I had every intention. I was going to wear a life jacket. I was going to go. And then things happened and they were all able to go, but I was not. But I was going to do it because it's not that I have FOMO, fear of missing out, but it was, I live with that fear of drowning. And that's the only thing that I have not been able to overcome yet. I still have not given up that someday I will overcome it with God's help. But I don't want it to rule my life and take away opportunities. I mean, when we were at the conference in Milwaukee, I went out on a boat and I was relaxed and I was having fun and I wasn't wearing a life jacket. Violet and I have been to Florida and we went on a dolphin cruise or something out in Tampa Bay. And I was comfortable and I was moving all around the boat. But every once in a while, it like overwhelms me where it's that, okay, pushing this big, huge boulder up the hill again. And I start to think about it. And I start to think about possible consequences.
Right.
So having, me having Kevin or you or, some of my friends that I reached out to and asked them to pray about my situation yesterday. And I have to say thank you to one of our viewers who has become a client of mine. And I had told her what was going on because I was telling her what our show was going to be about today. And she sent me a message and said that she was praying for me because she knew I was, having to do it scared yesterday. And so I'm not going to say her name, but she knows who she is. And I really I wanted to say thank you and how much that meant to me. But I don't let myself, because of that swimming situation, not do things scared.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't want little things to become huge.
I hear you, and I slightly right now I can really empathize because since I have a bad leg and it floats up, so when it does that, it flips me face first in the water, and I can't swim. But we discovered I put a weight on. But the other time when we were swimming, there were a couple of times somehow the balance was off in some way, and I went under. But I had a friend that, without being obvious, she kind of kept an eye where I was in the pool, and would reach out and go, "Whoop, here you are," and put me upright and get me by the wall. So, and then just go on about. We had kids there, and go on about doing. But she righted the ship and let me get my composure. But I don't want to. It's good exercise in a pool. And I need to be able to do it. But because of that, I realize, yes, I want to do it and do it scared and do it afraid. I also have to do it wisely, which means that I should never swim without another person to get me back out of the water.
Right, exactly.
So, but I'm visualizing just that aspect of it, because in the past that was never truly a problem.
Yeah.
And so, and really, I think I was afraid at a point, but once we discovered to put a weight on my leg to keep it downish, it helps. So
yeah, and solving those, coming up with solutions, coming up with out of the box thinking. I posted on my Facebook group, No Limits, Changing the World's Perspective of Special Needs Through IEPs. What is the most thrilling thing that your child has ever done? And I'm sharing one of the stories from there because the person shared it. So if you're part of the group, you would see that anyway. And she said that while it wasn't the most thrilling thing that her child had ever done, her child is getting ready to go into high school, and he has a new locker that has a combination lock on it. And in his earlier schooling years, he didn't have a lock on his locker. So he doesn't know how to do that. And so they had worked at the one at school. Once he got the combination, he's got the combination memorized, but that's, for anybody who's ever had a combination lock, and especially these, I mean, they've been used by hundreds of students now, because these locks are built into the locker. And so, they're not going to be as precise as, they might have been at the beginning. And so he was really getting anxious because he was having such a difficult time. So
Mm-hmm.
she realized that she had an old lock that was one that was not attached to anything. And so they just practiced with that. And that, helped calm him down. So she could put him in an experience that was similar, but not as frightening. So his anxiety could be lowered and he could get this practice and he could get the mastery of it
And have success.
and so but that's a way of thinking outside the box.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody thinks of that as an option.
And I think you've kind of pegged it though. When you have, especially when you have children with different abilities, you have to be able to think outside the box.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a teacher, you're always trying to think outside the box. Um, I know lots of teachers that think outside the box, and I've always been amazed by that. That because they have all these individual students, whether they have unique needs or not, and then you add in those that do have those needs, and then they really got to think outside the box, and that's where it comes down to teamwork again and
Mm-hmm.
collaboration, and it makes my heart hurt when you're having to fight and advocate with this parent because you're not getting that teamwork and collaboration. Instead, it's us against them. Whereas with my son, for the most part, through his entire schooling, it was a team approach around the table. It was a collaboration of everyone going, okay, well, that didn't work. Now what?
Mm-hmm.
Or, oh, this is working really well. Or I would say, okay, this is what's working at home, and I would give it to him. Oh, we're willing to try. And like we tried these tickets. Well, he was tearing them up. So then we tried nickels. I got a roll of nickels and I sent them to school. Um, he was throwing them in the trash. I was like, okay, well, that's not working.
Right.
That was not. But if they didn't communicate that to me, I was trying. It was working at home. It really was. He wasn't tearing tickets up and he wasn't throwing nickels in the trash. But it meant nothing to him there. So they communicated to me and they came up with something different and I tried it at home and that worked at home, so we were able to think outside the box. That's something we could use consistently both places.
Right.
So I don't know, I think sometimes ha- I just keep coming back to you can't expect to do life alone.
Yeah. Hi, Loretta. Thank you for joining us. um and
Oh, hi,
i did
Laura.
I didn't want to interrupt you. She said it a few minutes ago, but
Oh, okay.
and yeah, but what, like we've said before, you know what happens if you don't have the village to help you raise your child? Or like in this case, that the parent that she's a single mom.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I mean, yeah, she has me, and that's what she said. She's like, I have you, but and I've had, sorry, there was a weird noise I thought I heard in my house. Um, I've had other parents say this, like, what do
Mm-hmm.
parents who don't have you coming to these IEP meetings do? How do they understand? How do they get their points across? I don't know. How did you do it before me? And they're like, we didn't. I said, well, and I guess there's maybe a lot of people who aren't.
And I think the internet and social media is good and it's bad because you see all the supports that are out there and sometimes you realize you don't have those supports and you're missing out on it, or you get the help to think outside the box because if you are a single parent or if you don't have that tangibly locally, you can reach out on in groups and things and you get that support.
Right. And I've noticed in our area, I've had parents tell me there aren't support groups for parents in this area.
No,
Not
there aren't.
not close. I mean, like they may have to drive across the river and then they could get some support with other parents. But even having the internet, I don't know. I guess maybe somebody has to start it. And I've thought of starting one, But I'm like, but I mean, I guess I could just moderate it, but you know, I don't know that that would work. But I guess now that I'm thinking about it, I have seen groups where they are, you know, parents of children in, you know, this county or that county, um, you know, having groups on Facebook. So that, you know, it would just be figuring out to get the word out like everything else, I guess.
And the commitment. So maybe it's something on which to pray.
Yes. Everything is something on which to pray.
Yeah, I got a funny. I'm gonna kind of take off with this little one. I'm not really good about saying no.
Oh, really? Had no idea. Here, my little friend wants to say hi today.
Oh, that's not Jonas.
No, this is not Jonas. Jonas is having a
It's
play
an
date.
Ewok.
But Ruby is her name. Ruby is here to play with Jonas. Yeah. But you see, she's laying on my lap. So.
And where's Jonas?
He's probably ignoring her because she's been here for a few hours, and they play really good for a little bit, and then they're both like, "Okay, I'm done." Oh. And then they kind of ignore each other. So.
She's cute. So my chipmunk, you know, this no thing. Yeah, I'm not really good about it. So I had a friend once tell him, well, you'll pray about it, which is true. You should do that,
right?
Or think about it. So I'm getting better at that because I wanted to say, hey, you and I could do that,
right? I could tell like, you were like, I want to volunteer, but I shouldn't.
and I didn't. I thought, So that's why I said you should pray about that.
Yep. Well, and I have. I mean, because it's not a new thought. It's been one that I've had for several calendars. So it, you know, because I've heard this for almost since I opened the business. You know, that I feel alone. I feel alone. There's nothing here. There is, you know, I mean, there
was when Bubby was really little.
Yeah.
There was a Down syndrome group in the big town a little bit over.
Yeah.
And our kids grew up a little bit together, but then as they got older, they got services in that county that were way different than the county in which I live. And those services are way above and beyond what I could ever hope to get. And it made me sad.
Yeah.
And then, or we would go across the river and those services are even way more different. And so it's an interesting, I'm thinking on it. Yeah, that is definitely a deficit in this area.
Yeah. And there's the statistic is one is A out of the whole alphabet. Every family is a family with a special need. So for those who don't understand, 1 out of every 26 families is a family with someone who has an exceptionality. Notice how I keep changing my wording today, how I'm like special needs, disabilities, exceptionality. I've been in too many groups where they're fighting about what's the right terms to use. And so I'm trying to cover them all.
Yes, I've noticed how you do that, but also I've noticed I as well have not always, I don't stick to the same thing because to me, as one person once told me, it's just a label.
Right. Yeah, it is. It's not, I mean, it really does not define who you are.
And unfortunately, to get services, you have to have labels.
Yeah.
And at least the labels have changed from when Bubby originally went from developmentally delayed to mentally retarded, because that one really stunk.
Yeah.
That was the day that my whole world crashed down.
Yep, I'm sure.
And it was really, really hard to get upright. And I just discovered I have to do something afraid for my daughter now, with this school.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, she nonchalantly said something while we were together today. And I went, say that again. Yeah, I can't do this because of this, is what she she said. I said, who told you that? Well, they did. Mm, okay. We're going to revisit this because you can, and that's why you're where you are, because that's what you're supposed to be doing.
Right.
Oh, well, they told me I wouldn't be allowed to. So that's why I haven't wanted to go back. And so that would explain like half of our fights this summer and half of her frustration, and because her behaviors were communicating to me that she did not want to go. But I know that and we just had a law passed in the state in which we are
Yep.
that once they have their if they start the school year and they have that birthday that would normally kick them
22nd.
out,
Yep.
they actually will be allowed to continue onward. However, a lot of people are not aware of that, including her school district.
Right.
So
Well,
I let them know.
and within that was just passed, wasn't there also the emergency for anybody who turned that age last year during the COVID year, that they
However,
also get
they
to
had to have ABC consecutive interrupted calendars.
after they turned that birth date?
No, within that time that they missed out. So if there was something going on, it was
Oh,
it's a that part there's a lot of grayness to.
well, yeah. Because yeah, because it's politics and it's government, and
And
they
I'm
have
just
to
wondering,
try to
yes,
cover as many scenarios as possible with as generic terminology and phrasing as possible in order to get as many situations covered, even though, so yeah, it's like it's a whole weird formula thing. Um, and that's how all of our laws are. It's not just that particular one. There's, in many of our laws, there's a go down this rabbit hole, and then from that rabbit hole, go over this way, because yeah, I mean, the whole special educational law is like that.
mhm,
Every time I read a part of it, it seems like it'll say, well, and then this has to follow the guidance in this other section. So then you have to go to that other section, and then you have to look at that section, and then it'll say, well, and then that has to follow whatever, is in this section. It's like,
mhm,
seriously?
right. So I wanna try to to I wanna see if we can touch on some helpful ways to do it scared, afraid. What are some ways that as a parent we can do that, or as an educator even we can do that, or as a friend looking in, how can we do that? How can we help someone that's going through it?
Right. Well, I think you hit the one of the biggest points that you and I would both say is, and you have, try not to do it, whatever it is, alone. Try to have, a support person. Reach out. We are a very, I don't know if it's all humans all over the planet or just those of us in the United States, but we are a very prideful bunch of people. And we don't like to ask for help, or we've asked for help in the past and felt like even if someone helped us, they didn't really want to, or we actually had people who just said no. And so we don't ask anymore because we've been told no a few times.
Mhm. I just wrote something on Facebook. I don't.
It hasn't popped
Um,
up yet.
no.
Oh,
This afternoon, or
oh, okay.
um, it struck me because I'm laughing. That's why I was laughing about the pride. Why does one allow pride to keep others away to the point of hurting everyone, not just themselves?
Yep. Because that's what pride is. I don't need anybody else. I am wonderful and I can do it on my own. And
And you
nobody
know what?
else can do it as good as me or whatever.
And just a simple something will knock that pride. I thought that um
Finish your thought and then I'll put it up.
Okay. Sorry. I saw this thing pop up
I
and it
know.
distracted me. I have er oh yeah, my health. Remember I was working this many and I was doing this and I was doing this and I was doing that. And all of a sudden I needed help putting my clothes on. I needed help getting in the bathtub.
Right.
Um I all of a sudden that I thing became a Allison, come here. My leg's stuck. Can you get it? Even this morning, my glasses went flying. I heard them, but without my glasses, I can't find my glasses.
Right?
You know that.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I didn't want to step on them because I only have a pair of glasses. And so it was like, she's like, what now? And I said, I need your help, please. What'd you do? My glasses went flying. I can't find them. And I have this old linoleum floor that my glasses just mesh into. And I was like, so don't step on them when you come in, but I think they're behind the bed somewhere.
Yeah.
And so she came and helped me, and I had to say thank you and admit that I can't do it alone.
Right. And that's not easy. That's not easy for anyone at any age. But we have to learn to be okay and ask for help, because the alternative is we're going to beat ourselves up and think nobody cares about us because people can't read our minds and know that we have a need.
People can't read our minds. Really? No way.
Really? I can
I
try
thought,
as hard as I want, and I can't tell you what you're thinking right now. It's not, I don't have that capability. And I know, not just because I don't have it, but I know nobody has it. So one of the things that Alex suggested to do when you have something that you have to do scared is leading up to it, is to have something routine to do. Could be anything. And that's a great suggestion. You know,
I like that.
Try, like, you know, if you know that music calms you down, play your favorite songs leading up to it. Now for me, it wasn't just those final few little bits before the meeting. It was like hours, you know, a whole clock time around once or twice, A or B times. So the meeting in the morning was perfect because I had all morning and then like half of the afternoon before the meeting was to happen on that day. So that's a lot of time in a day to think about or not think about it. So, and it, having, like you said, just having, you know, something to do, writing out, you know, some people, I'm not a journal person, even though I'm an author, it's still not like my thing to do on a regular basis. But, you know, for some people that helps them is to journal out, like, what are all the possible outcomes, negative and positive, or just how you're feeling, you know, because our brains actually, if it's out on a piece of paper or we verbalized it, then our brains are like, okay, it's done, it's taken care of. But I forget that in the moment.
I'm a list person. So
are you?
But I can't, like, I was supposed to do a social event. And so I had lists upon lists of different things to organize it so that I could take what was up there, organize it, and then I wasn't always continually trying to organize it. I could look at it and then go forward.
Right.
So for me, but I can't, not I won't, I can't journal. I can't write out my thoughts.
Well, and that's the great thing about technology is you can, you know, my phone, I forget that it's there, but it does have a voice recorder app on it. So leading up to this meeting the other day, I woke up one morning and I was like, okay, we got to remember to talk about this. And I was like half asleep. And then later that morning I was showering and more thoughts came to me. So I had the phone near the shower and got out of the shower, grabbed it, put some more notes in there. So I was sharing them with the parent. And she was like, oh, that's when you were in the shower. I can hear the water running. Like, oh, okay. Well, I probably shouldn't have told you that, but
Oh, that's so funny.
but yeah, I mean, people talk to themselves all the time now. It's so funny because, with the Bluetooth things in the ears, you see people and you think they're talking to themselves, but they're really having a phone conversation. But it probably works like that with those apps. You can probably have it on your phone and then just, be walking around talking to your phone app to write. Instead of writing journaling, you can verbally journal.
Well, putting it down at all for me is very difficult.
Right.
So whether I verbalize it or I tend to internalize that part of it. So
Yeah.
I've found for me personally, but if
And
I
that,
can do it for my kids,
right.
the pros, the cons, and
Right. Oh yeah, I can give great advice, but following it, I don't always do so well.
what is that? What does it say? Do what I
Do what I say, not what I do.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I mean, after the
know.
fact, I can be like, oh yeah, I should have wrote this all out. Like as we're coming up with these ideas, I'm like, oh, I should have done that. That would have been helpful.
So we've said don't do it alone. Write it out if you can.
Find a routine of something to do.
Find a routine prior to um, realize that asking for help is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength.
Yep.
And I know we say that often, but I think it's very important because I too used to think asking for help meant that I was weak, but it really means that I know my strengths and I know my weaknesses and I'm aware of where I need the assistance and I'm aware of where I can provide assistance.
Yep. Yeah, because we have to give ourselves grace. I was looking because I was about to say the word balance and I was like, Alex hasn't said balance yet. But I'm not sure what the balance is in this. So Alex, if you're still with us, tell me what the balance for this episode would be. But for me, I have to give myself grace, the same grace that I extend to others. So the saying, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I need to do unto me as I do to others because
Right.
I am so much harder on myself than I am on anybody else. I don't judge anybody for asking for help unless it's me. I don't judge anybody or think differently of anybody if they have an area where they're not as experienced as I am, but I still find myself thinking I should somehow have experience in everything and know more things than I do.
Why do we do that?
I don't know.
Why do we not allow ourselves that grace? Why does it mean, you know what, sometimes I had someone tell me, well, you just must I'm trying to think of the right words. You just must be so much better than all the rest of us that you're perfect. And I went, oh, oh, mm.
Yeah.
No, I don't mean to portray I'm perfect because I'm far, far from perfect. But
Right.
apparently, if I can't have grace for myself, then I must be perfect. And everyone else is imperfect, and therefore I'm looking down on them. So I really had to think on that one.
Not sure how to balance in this area, Alex says. So good. It's not just me. I mean, not good, but good. I'm not alone. Yeah. So we're getting close to time. We have about minutes to go. Run from scary things too often. Yeah. And I mean, there are things, that's why we have the awareness that we have. I mean, there are some things that we shouldn't do scared, because they are things that we should avoid. And, you know, I mean, there are dangerous things.
That's when you're wise,
Well,
using wisdom.
so the funny story, so when I was telling Kevin the morning that we were supposed to go on the float trip, I said, I think this is so silly because I had zero fear about going skydiving. And I said, and that's probably just as dangerous, if not more so. He goes, probably? I was like, oh. And I haven't been able to go skydiving for anybody who's interested. It just hasn't happened yet. I've tried twice. So the first time I waited too long to schedule and the season was over because it was in our area, in the Midwest, and winter hit and, well, late fall hit. And so the company didn't do it. And then this last time I was supposed to go was when we were in Milwaukee with the Master IP Coach Conference. And it was just too overcast and we wouldn't have been able to see anything but clouds pretty much all the way down. So we had to postpone it until next year. So it's still on my schedule, but yeah, I haven't done it yet. But yeah, I just thought that was funny that, you know, there is other things that were dangerous that I have no fear of, but going on a float trip was making me nervous.
And you know what I think that really exemplifies is for you, what you have to do scared will be different
It's an excellent
than
point.
what I have to do, or what our child has to do, or what the teacher has to do, or so that's where we come back to the grace and realizing that we're each walking our own journey. I like to compare it to we're each on our own journey and we have these seasons in which we are, and we have to be able to realize that though they are similar, each journey is individual and unique unto that person.
Yep.
So we can only share our own experiences and our life experiences and our advice because of that, but we should not expect another to be able to use it completely as is given because they are in their own unique individual situation and season.
All right. Well, I don't have anything else to say after that. Because that is so very true. And I, as you were talking, I was thinking of the times when I have heard people say, whether it be a one-on-one situation or a teacher in a classroom, say, oh, this will be easy. Well, if it's not easy for that other person, they just feel about this big now because you've said it's easy. So it should be easy. So what's wrong with me that this isn't easy? And yeah, to know the wording and to know everything you just said about everyone's own journey and remembering that and reminding ourselves that. Another interesting session again. A lot to think about. Thanks. You're welcome, Alex. We're glad that you joined us and so happy that you were able to hold your internet today. I know sometimes that's an issue for you. And but yeah, it is time to wrap up. And apparently my voice is coming right along with that idea.
I just thought of something really quickly.
Okay,
words
sorry.
have the power to build or to destroy.
That's in a song.
So use your words. What?
That's in a song.
I don't listen to that. But I know that we just have to, I've never heard that song.
Okay.
But I just know that they do have so that we have to choose our words wisely.
Yeah.
Because you don't know who is listening.
You're right. You're right. You know what I have to do? From last week's episode, and now you just made me think of another song about the words can tear you up and words can tear you down. That I need to put. I need to put last week's "The Battle Belongs to the Lord," and no, not that. What was the? What was it?
Battle.
just battles. Okay. Yeah. And I need to go put that link in.
This is how I
And then
fight
I
my
need to,
battle.
yeah, this is how I fight my battle. And then I need to put the link into that song in today's comment section. But it's time to go.
Okay.
So we'll see you all next week.